kind of go ahead and get started. Everybody is going into a lobby, so I may have to kind of, if you see me like stopping and stuttering, it's because I'm trying to let people in. We'll go ahead and get started. I just want to thank everybody for coming to our first educational workshop. This workshop is a little different from what we've been doing in the past with Upstate Healers. Prior to this has been more working with the healing community and working to heal our healers and create a networking system for our healing community, and also helping to grow not only our clientele and businesses, but also our friendships within this community. And it's been pretty amazing so far. So my name is Angela. I actually own a Reiki practice, Attuned Awakenings, and I've partnered with Tam Dillon, and we have created Upstate Healers for those purposes. All right, see, the waiting room thing is fun. Okay. And if you haven't known, this is my first time like mediating a Zoom panel or anything, so I'm learning as we go. But tonight we have Matt TELLIER with Half Acre Holistics joining us, Perrin White with Be Well, Breathe Well, and Beth Ashley, who owns Integrative Yoga Therapy and Easily. So they each all practice a form of breath work and facilitate that during some of you have many different modalities. So they use breath work to help their clients guide through their healing process or whatever they are working on. So tonight we're just kind of working together and learning a little bit more about each type of breath work that they do. So I'm going to allow everyone of our panelists to introduce themselves. Tell us your name and your business and a little bit about what you do and offer. Perrin, we'll start with you.
Sure. Well, thank you, Angela, for hosting us. And I love that you're providing education, because we all need more help in learning with what's out there in the modalities. But my background's in speech language pathology and myofunctional therapy. And then when I got my yoga teacher certification, I just started noticing all these overlapping patterns. And I was trying to think, like, how am I going to describe this? I just feel like the pattern lady. Like, I see patterns all the time, and I really am interested in our breath patterns, our thought patterns, and movement patterns as far as it goes to functionality. So I'm going to help teach my clients, and my number one goal is always airway health. So I might break out, I don't know, like really awesome medical diagrams or talk about the anatomy and physiology, but I just want to make sure that your airway is clear and you can use it. Your nose is working, your tongue knows where to go. And we actually get to practice these diaphragmatic breathing patterns when you're in a safe environment. Also, I like to talk about emotions, because your emotions can also affect your breath. So I go about helping my clients address airway and breath from the anatomy and physiology, as well as the emotions. And I use breath work, what I call functional breath work, essentially retraining nasal breathing, tongue up, lips closed, diaphragmatic breathing for all instances, because I want your main pattern of breath to be nasal. So we have a mouth, and that's absolutely for backup, and we are supposed to use it. I'm using it right now, but I want you to have a pattern in your body. So when you're sleeping, your body pulls from that. So I'm not talking about always and never. It's both and. You have both. But I want your body to know how to use its nose and feel really good about that. So when it's unconscious, it goes to that pattern. And then I want you to have some word medicine, some mantras, some meditations to actually help soothe the emotional distress that just being a human in 2023 brings. So in a nutshell, science and spirit help you breathe and be. And that's me.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And so next we'll go to Beth. Just tell us a little bit about you and your business and what you offer, what you do.
Thank you. I'm Beth Ashley, and I own Integrative Yoga Therapy in downtown Easley. And I am currently in school for a master's in yoga therapy. So I incorporate yogic breath work, traditional practices. There's so many different types that we do. But kind of like Perrin said, the diaphragmatic breathing is like something almost everybody I see needs. It's just so many people have not the fullest optimal breath. So I like, again, looking at those patterns and helping people figure out how they can improve the breath. And then we also use the breath to help regulate our nervous system. So we can move more easily between the states of the autonomic nervous system, and just to move prana. So prana is that life force energy, to move it throughout the body. We use the breath work to remove blockages and clear those energy channels. So I do energy work as well. I'm also a Reiki practitioner, and I am also a gong sound healer. So I bring in breath work to those practices as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. If you guys want a good gong session, highly recommend Beth for that as well. And next we have Matt.
Hello, hello. Thanks. Happy to be here. My name is Matt TELLIER. My wife and I own Half Acre Holistics in Greenville, and I'm a certified breathwork instructor. I mainly teach a conscious connected breathing technique. I teach mainly a 3-part breath in my group classes. But if you work with me individually, we'll dive into some other techniques. And I like to approach breathwork as breath is your own medicine. So when you start to really work with your breath, this thing that is giving you your life, when you really start to harness that and work with it, it's like you're harnessing your prana, your chi. And when you start to do that, you can really connect with your life force energy on a deeper level. And the depth of how you can connect with yourself can be really profound and transformational, and sometimes life-changing. And everybody's on a different, everybody starts on a different path. We're all, some people have really traumatic things that happen to them, and other people not so much. And so it can be more powerful for other people for starting out than for others. But the breath work is, everybody can do it. Everybody can just lie down and breathe and close their eyes. You do it every night when you go to bed. So there's no reason to be scared of it, doing it in a classroom with other people. And you're able to remove mental blockages, emotional blockages, physical blockages, and this idea of your breath being your own medicine is trust your breath. The breath is going to give you what you need. All you have to do is just be in surrender and acceptance, and it's just going to give you whatever it is that you need. Even if you think you know what you need, the breath work might give you something else. So it's just being open and in acceptance and surrendering to whatever is. Yeah, that's the practice. In a nutshell. Awesome. We'll go a little deeper.
All right, no problem. I think I've practiced with each one of you, and the difference between the three is really amazing, and like how it affects. So I'm really excited to kind of get into each of your little areas of magic tonight. So first, we'll go ahead and start with you, Matt, since you're kind of up right now. How did you get into breathwork? Tell us about that.
Well, I guess this was about 7 or 8 years ago, and I was living in New York at the time. And I guess this was a time when I was starting to finally take ownership and agency over my life and be a little bit more responsible. And this is in my early 30s, mind you. So I feel like I was kind of behind the ball where most people are starting at, but everybody's on their own journey. So no judgment. And during this time, I stopped being so codependent on other relationships and started to really embrace my own independence rather than start to fear it, which was always the case beforehand. I didn't want to be seen. And so, during this time, I started listening to podcasts and kind of creating my life the way I wanted to create it. And just listening to podcasts, I think it's just such a great outlet to find experts in their field that are passionate about what they do. And you can see, it's like going to college, and listening to lectures. And I started to change how I ate. I started to change how I worked out. I started to meditate, experiment with plant medicines and psychedelics. And then I found breath work. And I found breath work through Wim Hof on one of the big podcasts out there. And, I was listening to this jolly fellow just talk about how he's setting all these world records and doing ice baths and cold showers. And he's incorporating this breathing technique into it. And I was fascinated by it. And so I started taking cold showers and started doing the breathing technique. And I found that, at work, I was working in the service industry as a bartender. And my coworkers, after a while, were starting to come up to me and say, "How are you so calm? What's going on with you? Why aren't you freaking out like the other bartenders when it gets busy?" And so, you don't see that change in yourself, until you're years down, and then you kind of look back on your life. But to get that feedback, fairly quickly from my coworkers was like, "Oh, there's something here. There's something working." And so my girlfriend at the time, Adrienne, she invited me to a breathwork class that one of her coworkers was doing. And that was my first introduction to conscious connected breathing, which was a little bit more intense than the Wim Hof method. And it was in that class where we breathed for an hour straight. And there was about 16 people in the room, and everybody looked at each other like, "Did you just say 1 hour? That's how long we're going to do this for?" Everybody had wide eyes, but we all did it. And it was a beautiful experience. And during that time, I was like, wow, this is as close to the psychedelic experience as I've ever gotten before, just doing it by myself. And that's the power of your own breath. You can have a really intense experience that can connect you to your intuition, your inner guidance. And after that, I was kind of hooked, and I started doing that technique on my own at home. And then 6 months later, I was training with that breathwork group and did a year-long certification course, and ended up in a 10-day retreat in China at the end of the year in 2019. And we did breathwork there and trained with some Chinese masters in Tai Chi, Qigong, Xingyi. It was a really transformational year. And then everything shut down in 2020, of course, and nobody wanted to breathe in a room together. So 2022, I decided to get recertified through John Paul Crimmy, who's based in Bend, Oregon. And the technique that I practice now and the format that I practice now is generally what he does. Yeah, that's pretty much it. That's my breathwork journey in a nutshell.
That's really amazing. What a change in just a short time with all of that. That's really cool. And Perrin, you want to tell us a little bit about how you got into breathwork?
Sure. And I would say I'm still learning about breathwork. And if I'm being completely honest, all the things that I do are the things that I need that help me. And it just so happens that I also can parlay them into helping others. And I feel so grateful that I've been able to make this and transform it into a business. So I always was a mouth breather, and I don't mean that like in a negative way. I just mean like that was the main mode of breathing, like all the time. And mine more so was because of restriction in the tongue, which then dictates the shape of your face, which dictates the space in your nose. And essentially, I like to call it's a real estate issue. And if this gets too small, then this gets too small. And over time, it's kind of like a slow burn. I would tell clients, it's not like the house is on fire, but the gas is on. And the gas was on for a long time before I ever figured it out. Got misdiagnosed or treated incorrectly and was given lots of Adderall. And that was a huge Band-Aid that I used for a really long time. I had to unlearn a lot of things once I finally got off Adderall. Like, you have to feel your feelings. You can't just take a pill for it. And your body is tired for a reason. These are messages, and just really learning to listen to these messages. And it wasn't until 34 when I finally found out I had a deviated septum and got that fixed. And once I finally took a full breath through my nose, that was the change in the turning point that actually allowed me, without criticism and without fear, to actually ask myself, what other formerly held beliefs did I have that I possibly was wrong about? And it was through that lens of curiosity that I got deeper into myofunctional therapy and learning about the specific muscles of the face and the throat for swallowing, for breathing, for speaking. And then I'd always practiced yoga, and also like the pandemic hits and I start really practicing yoga in my home, getting so much more comfortable because I didn't have any ego. It was just me and my dog who's in my lap. I'm surprised she hasn't said anything yet, but just started loving it. And there became an opportunity to do it in person as we got a little bit farther out of the pandemic, to do yoga teacher training. And I didn't know why, but I just knew I had to do that. So I signed up and I started hearing about the prana and the pranayamas, and I knew a little bit about it, but I just lit up and kept leaning in and could feel my body giving me hard guesses. And through that training, I started using it with my clients in the more traditional setting of the clinic I was in. And then I was like, oh, I keep this close by all the time. I love this book so incredibly much, Breath by James Nestor. If you have not read this, I have it on Audible. I have multiple copies, and I'm actually going to a retreat that he has. Literally, it's in like a week and a half in Costa Rica. I could not be more excited, because this is the book that actually transformed and brought together the ancient practices of what was happening thousands of years ago with what he actually experienced currently. And it just put it more into perspective, like, this is a thing. And what I really came to understand is, if we think about our health as a hierarchy, and this is that pyramid, that triangle, that very bottom line, like that firm foundation, is respiration. And if you don't have your respiration, if you do not have your breath, everything else suffers. Not to mention, once your respiration is exalted, you're done in this life, at least. And so what I would say is, it was through all of those different experiences, understanding that I can do this better. I can treat myself. I can treat trauma and anxiety and depression and trauma with my breath to help make sure I'm okay. But also I can teach others so that we can start to get these muscles working in functional ways that at least prevent it if they're young enough, and treat it if they're at another age. And then also use modalities, whether it's ENT, whether it's orthodontia, whether it's expansion or tongue tie release, or whatever we need. And it needs all of it. I cannot save you, but I absolutely can be a huge part of your healing journey. And I ultimately want everyone to have the tools from the inside out versus the outside in. So I don't want you to need a pill. I don't want you to need like some Band-Aid. I don't want you to need someone else validating you. No, you validate yourself. You have your inner strength from the inside, from your breath that you then exude outward. And that's what I just know in my bones. And I'm constantly telling myself the same thing that I tell all my other clients is, your strength comes from your breath, because even though it happens unconsciously, you have conscious control over it. And once you start bringing awareness to how you breathe, you can then change your awareness of your entire life, and that you get to decide how you breathe, and you can decide how you live your life. And ultimately, I started Breathe Well, Be Well. Actually, it was just a year ago. It was February 22nd, 2022 when I started. I love the number 2. And so I just celebrated 1 year, and hopefully many, many years to come of doing this type of work. But I've really loved getting to kind of hone in on how I treat. And really it starts with the breath, and then we move on from there. So that was a little bit of a convoluted answer, but that's that.
That's okay. No, it was funny as you were talking, I wrote something down. I work in the medical field, and as you were talking, I was like, breath is always like one of the first signs that something is wrong with someone, like the way they breathe, like when they're starting to get really sick or something really serious is going on. You always notice
Yeah.
as a person who's assessing someone that something's wrong with the way they're breathing and when that body is in physical distress. So that was I just wanted to share that little tidbit as it popped into my head before it went away. All right, Beth, let's talk to you a little bit about how you got into breath work. I think you've told us a little bit in your intro, but if you want to go further into detail.
Thank you. I started practicing yoga in 2014 after the recommendation from a physical therapist I was working with for arthritis and a knee surgery. And then it was more for a physical practice is why I went, was to aid in my physical recovery. And with yoga, you incorporate the breath with movement, and that just did not come naturally to me. And I realized like just how out of sync I was with just being aware of my breath and being able to control my breath. So I'm still learning over the years, though. It was probably at least a year into my yoga practice before I felt like the movement and the breath really connected within me. And once I figured that out, there was just like a huge shift in my physical practice. And that led to changes in my emotional health and mental health. I've always had anxiety, and I learned how to use the breath to help shift away from those thought patterns and just find that, inner peace within and connect with that. And the breath is just something we can always connect to, no matter where we are. Sometimes we're not even aware that we're breathing, and just sitting back for a minute and just connecting to your breath, just listening to your breath, or putting a hand on the chest and feeling the breath, just helps to like ground and center. So I work with that a lot with my clients. Just really mindfulness, being aware of the breath, and then recognizing what kind of patterns we do have. If we tend to breathe in the chest or in the belly, or if there's like hardly any movement in the body with our breath, and learning how to find a really full, optimal breath that helps to just really take as much in as you can and release as much as you can. And that just helps to move that prana within, and that's connected to we call them the koshas. It's like the layers. So the breath body is one body, the physical body is a body. There's the mental body, our wisdom body, our thoughts, and then there's the bliss body, the way we connect with a higher power. And they're all integrated. So just changing the way you breathe can change the way you relate to all those other bodies that make up who we are. So I work with everybody in all of those koshas and just try to help them find their like whole self. Once we're integrated and we feel like all of those bodies are in alignment, we can start to feel like we live more fully.
Awesome. Thank you. So I kind of want to go into, I know I talked a little bit about each one of you does a little different form of breath work. I know I've worked, I went to a group class of Perrin's where she does this more meditative breath work. It's very calming, and where Matt's is like this transformational, and there was a lot going on. All really beautiful experiences. So Perrin, if you could just tell me a little bit about your form of breath work that you tend to work with. Maybe you work with a certain form the most, or different types for different reasons, or how do you go about that?
Yeah, I very much like, I've always leaned more on the speech pathology background because that's my comfort zone. That's absolutely where I feel really good. And it's because of patterns. I've been doing it for over a decade. And so I always want to know like your medical history. I want to know like your nutrition. I want to know sleep. Like I'm very, very interested in sleep. And I would say anyone that really, there's two things that I go about it. One, I have clients hold water in their mouth just a little bit and then try to nasal breathe for 2 minutes. I set a timer for 2 minutes. You can tell like the people that are absolutely losing it, they're fearful, they're having trouble. It tells you a lot of information. And so the biggest thing is, one, does the nose work? So the nose needs to work. Point blank, the nose needs to work. But if they have trouble keeping the water in their mouth, as in like the water spilling out, that lets me know we have some muscle insufficiency that I absolutely am going to address and look into. Additionally, it's going to let me know if their tongue gets tired. It gives me a wealth of knowledge. And what I find the most fascinating is it's also going to let me know if it's scary. So if that is terrifying, there's absolutely some information and some places that we can dig deeper into. So one, if you have anything like food falls out of your mouth, you drool, you can't keep your mouth closed, your nose is constantly stuffed up all the time, those are absolutely some good indicators. And then I would also say there's something called your CO2 tolerance. So I'm a big fan of Patrick McEwen. He has the Oxygen Advantage. He's also creator of Botego breathing. He has something called the BOLT score, and that stands for Body Oxygen Level Test. Essentially, it's a breath in and a breath out, and then you just pinch and comfortably hold, resuming nasal breathing in and out. And whatever that second duration is, that's your BOLT score. If you are below 5, well, if you're anywhere 5 or 10, that is absolutely correlated to asthmatic breathing. And that's something that I would love to dig my hands into. So those are the two things I would say from like a muscular standpoint. Any difficult eating, keeping your mouth closed, breathing through your nose. And then I would say any sleep disturbances, I absolutely want to know what's going on in your mouth with the soft tissue and those. So those are my favorite clients. And we're always going to just get through what are the basic patterns of breathing, then how do we strengthen that? And I want to like help with sleep hygiene as well, as far as we can, and get you to the correct additional practitioners that we need to get either body work or nutrition or ENT as they're comfortable with. So did I answer your question?
Well, I think it said very well.
Okay, yeah.
As far as how you determine what type.
Yeah. And so what I think is so interesting is I love patterns. I just see them all over the place. I used to be really into orange theory, where, I mean, literally you are, can I say ass? Like you're running your ass off on a treadmill. And I loved it because I needed it, because I had such intense chaos in my life that I needed that high level of intensity exercise to actually quiet my mind. But I don't need that now. So I'm not your, and if we're thinking about breath work, there's all these different modalities, just like there's all these different modalities of exercise. It's like, what do you need? And if you're just finding yourself getting very anxious, your shoulders stay up, your chest is always tight, those would be good indicators that I might be a good person. So I'm not here to like break through the traumas. I'm like the slow build. We're going to slowly change your breathing patterns as far as like an overarching goal. And then the BOLT score and that 2-minute test are my favorite ways of kind of digging deeper into what you need.
Yeah, I love how yours is very much like based on like the anatomy and all that, because that's like,
I've got all this weird.
I love that.
Do I bring out the skull yet? I mean, it's just, yeah. Those are my
So
love.
you're actually like restoring the process of, of strengthening those things we need to breathe better. Like I love your little videos every day. It's like breathe through your nose and lightly press your tongue against your mouth. Like I'm like, oh, thanks for reminding me today. So I appreciate that. All right. Matt, do you want to tell us about your transformational breath work?
Yeah, I don't call it transformational breath work because that's trademarked.
Oh,
that's why
it is
that's why I go with
transformational.
breath work for transformation. That's the way around
Okay.
it.
All right. Sorry to the powers that be with the little copyright symbol. Tell us a little bit about your breath.
Yeah, so the transformational breath work is also a conscious connected breathing technique. So a lot of the conscious connected breathing techniques that are out there, they're all ancient practices that date back hundreds, if not thousands of years, and they're all just rebranded for the modern day and age. But conscious connected breathing, which is what I teach, is essentially when you are connecting your, if you can see this, connecting your inhale with your exhale. Inhale, exhale. So it's a more rapid, so you're always spinning your breath like a wheel. That's why it's called circular or conscious connected breathing. And when you breathe like that, you're breathing at a faster pace than normal. Your resting breath is more like a triangle where you breathe in, you breathe out, and then there's a little pause. And then the next inhale will fall in again. And everybody has a different shaped triangle. Your breath is like a fingerprint. So when you start breathing like this, at this faster pace, your carbon dioxide levels decrease and your blood becomes more alkaline. And when your body compensates for this, there's certain areas in the brain that will have more activity, certain areas in the brain that will have less activity. And one of the areas in the brain that has less activity is the frontal cortex. And this is where the default mode network is. And that's where the self lives, the ego lives, the mental constructs live. So when that part of the brain kind of quiets and the activity slows down there, the ego can dissolve, all the constructs that you have start to dissolve. And so you're basically bypassing the monkey mind, the monkey brain, and then you can start to connect with yourself on a deeper level, whatever you want to call that, your inner wisdom, intuition, inspiration, your higher self, spirit, wherever you go to church, whatever you'd like to call it. And then when you start to connect with that, you just have clarity of thought. You just know things that you need to know. It's, you don't have to think about things anymore. It's just like a download. And that's why I think of the breath as your own medicine. It will give you what you need as long as you surrender to the process. And so it's more of it sounds like more of a woo-woo practice, but it's allowing you to release more mental blocks, physical blocks, emotional blockages. And sometimes those things, like especially the emotional blockages, are affecting how you're breathing in life. So if you can kind of release old trauma or, whatever it is that's living inside you that doesn't need to be there, if you can release that, all of a sudden, you feel better and you start breathing better. So it's kind of like, you can attack it from, or you can approach it from one perspective or this other perspective, but it's all leading to the same end, a happy, healthy life through breathing. And it just depends on what resonates with you. This breathing technique isn't necessarily for everybody. It could be a little scary for people. Most people, even if it does feel scary, if they breathe through it, it's a beautiful experience. And it is an experience, you just have to lie down, close your eyes and breathe. I play music. It's really it's almost like, I think there's another breathwork teacher that calls this breathertainment. And you can have a really transformative experience, but it's also very entertaining and fun to do with a group of people. But everybody's kind of in their own world. It's a strange but beautiful practice.
Yeah, I know the people that I've recommended to come to you, I'm like, you have to try it twice, because the first time you're just going to be like, what the heck is even going on? I don't even know how to react. And then the second time, it's just I can't even put words to it. But yeah, there is this element of, I should know how to breathe. Like, what am I doing here? Trying to get into it.
Yeah, and eventually everybody finds their own rhythm. They find their own pace, and
Mhm.
and you know, and as I facilitate throughout the room, I'm going around and I'm helping people correct their technique and allowing them to, and holding space for them to have their own experience.
Yeah, you do a very beautiful job of that.
And I just
Go
want
ahead,
to
Perrin.
say, Matt, I love how you said your breath is your fingerprint. That is beautiful.
I wrote that down too.
Oh,
I
good.
was like, that is great. I'm writing this down.
Yeah, because you know from everybody that you help, everybody's breathing a different way. They all like got their own things going on, and then you start to match it, and you're like, oh yeah, I've kind of seen a fingerprint like this before.
Awesome. All right, Beth. I know we've kind of hit on some of these a little bit as you guys have been talking, but do you want to go in a little bit more about how you use breath work and how the form you use work?
Yeah, so I use a lot of different types of breath work, and when I see a type of breath work might be best for them, so it's really more of a personalized approach. In group classes, probably the biggest thing I work with in full diaphragmatic breaths, using the whole torso as a container to breathe in and out of, and connecting that breath with movement in our physical yoga practice. And we do a lot of longer, slower exhales, especially to help just kind of upregulate the parasympathetic nervous system. So that's that rest and digest mode. It helps to calm us down, lower blood pressure, heart rate, your breathing rate. A lot of people realize that when you're stressed, those things speed up or increase, but they don't necessarily connect that that's like a two-way street, since it's also, the breath is a voluntary and involuntary thing. We can voluntarily control that breath to help shift us into a different state with our nervous system. So slowing down the breath can help us to move more into that relaxation mode and away from that fight or flight sympathetic response.
So I think we've kind of also hit with that last answer on my next question, which is the benefits of breath work. You just told us a lot about that. And so we'll go ahead. Is there anything you want to add to that you feel like the benefit in addition to what you just told us?
I'll copy Perrin with nasal breathing is super important. There's a lot of good research in that book she mentioned by James Nestor. I love that book too. After I read that book, I found out that I had a deviated septum and nasal valve collapse, and I had surgery to repair that, and couldn't believe how much of a difference it made. I had gone like my whole life not being able to breathe fully, and just didn't realize that I was having as much obstruction as I did. And my voice changed after that. Everything was just more open. I could sleep better. My allergies went away. So nasal breathing especially is really important. Humming type breaths where we get those vibrations in our face especially can help to produce nitric oxide and open the blood vessels, improve circulation throughout the body. So there's just so many benefits to breath work. My mom recently went through a breast cancer diagnosis and treatment, and part of that was radiation treatment. So she's laying on the table, and you have to just hold your breath while they're doing these, really precise maneuvers with the radiation. So she said that that breath work that she had learned through me just really helped her to hold the breath so that they could pinpoint exactly the place they needed to while she was going through these treatments.
Awesome. That's amazing. I love that. Matt, do you want to add any extra benefits you feel like? I know you were talking about how your form can help to release those emotional blockages in the energy fields and stuff. So anything else you want to add to that?
I mean, it's a laundry list. You know, somebody had asked me that in a class the other day, and I was like, you should probably just look on my website, because it's such a crazy laundry list of like benefits that it sounds like snake oil because it's just too good to be true. But really, it's, you know, your breath can be your own medicine. You can help release toxins from the body. You can relieve yourself of stress, anxiety, depressed emotions. You know, it can help heal PTSD. It can energize you. It can boost your immune system, immune function. What else? Improves sleep, helps digestion, releases trauma stored in the body. I mean, there's so many different things. I think a better, you know, an example would be, you know, I had somebody in my class that they struggled with anxiety their whole life, and they felt like when they started doing the breathing, they felt sensations coming up and it felt like they were going to have a panic attack, but they kept breathing. And then at the end of class, they were just raving about it. Like, oh my gosh, I had panic attacks my whole life. This is the first time I had the same feelings, and I was able to breathe through it, and I felt totally fine. So it's just that moment is just like an aha moment for somebody, to give them the confidence to regulate their own nervous system through their own breath and how they feel, and kind of making that you know, neural link, like that connection, like I can have autonomy over my body and not having autonomy over me. And then, you know, for our, you know, Adrienne's first breathwork class that we both did together, the big transformational breathwork class, it was the first time at the end of that class, she said it was the first time she felt peace in 2 years after her brother took his life. And that right there is, you know, that's huge for somebody. 2 years of carrying like that burden, and then 1 hour of breathing, and you finally have that moment of peace that you need, that you deserve. And then that you start to integrate that, and that stays with you. And you realize, you know, I can work through this trauma, or this moment in my life doesn't define me. So those are just some things that can happen.
Just a few.
And I had a realization that I needed to propose to my wife, and I left a breathwork retreat in the middle of it, and I drove from Boston to New York, and I asked her to marry me. So, you know, bring a diamond ring with you if you do breathwork. Just in case.
Your love story is one of my favorites. I love that. And I think that's so we're just keeping on. Perrin, I'm going to get distracted. Perrin, how about you?
Matt, I love how you said it's a laundry list, and you had a moment of wisdom after you started breathing clearly and knew what you had to do. I often like to say, let's flip it. So if you think breath isn't important, stop breathing and see what happens. That's one way to look at it. And then what I would say, honestly, my favorite is, it's just, how do we create a container of safety that is our body? So if you live with anxiety, PTSD, addiction, stress, chronic stress, all these things, that means that you're living in a hostile environment that is your body, that is yourself. And how do we start to come home to our heart and feel safe within this container? And if you can start to understand that you are in control, which is, I'm really mirroring and echoing and parroting, whatever you want to say, what Beth and Matt have been saying, but essentially, how do you find safety in your body? And it starts with understanding that you can breathe through it. And something I think is fascinating, to kind of piggyback off Matt, is excitement and fear can sometimes have the exact same feeling. It's just, how are we shaping it? How are we perceiving it? And then what do we do with it? But if you learn when it's safe, that you can breathe and you're okay, that's the carryover that you get to then take into other environments, other situations, other potentially triggering environments, and you still have that safety of your breath. And that's what I think is the beautiful thread that weaves through our lives. So one, it starts from the inside, like you breathe to feel calm, to feel secure, to feel stable and grounded. And then as you like move out and throughout the world, let's say it's Thanksgiving dinner with your family, or let's say it's a really contentious discussion with your boss. I mean, it's all these instances that you would expect your breath to rise. And if that doesn't serve you, you have a choice, but you have the tools from the neural patterning and the pathways that you've created formally in that safe environment when your body says this is okay, this is good, and then you get to use it to help you remind yourself that you're still safe in your body and you have, like Matt said, agency. And it's all about choice. Like you get to choose how you show up. You get to choose how to respond versus react. And it comes back again to the breath, to the breath, to the breath.
I think personally, as a practicer of breath work, I don't facilitate it obviously, but for me is that ability to feel my emotion without immediately letting it out with a vengeance, and coming to that breath, because I used to be a very angry person. I would just snap real quick. And as I've worked with breath more and more, I feel like I can help contain those emotions a little bit so that I can talk through them instead of just reacting to them. So for me, that's been a huge benefit. So thank you for sharing all of those. And I will lead into this question. I'm going to start with Matt, just because I know that he does support modalities with his breath work, other modalities. I know you've been doing some collaborative efforts with me and also Tara with the QHHT sessions, the past life regressions, and we do that. And then you also work with me with Reiki. So this question is kind of about what modalities support your breath work. How do you feel about integrating those and what kind of benefits come from those?
Yeah, I think it's all just, I think it, there's no rules. It's just like create what you want to create, which, the first, there's a reason why I don't do the breath work I originally trained in, because it was, you do this technique and there's no room for anything else. And after a while that just, it just didn't fit anymore. And I had to find something else. So, and now, I'm finding people love, breathwork and Reiki, and they leave feeling different than just in a regular breathwork class. And then they find something new in the breathwork and past life regression. And I think the breathwork just sets you up to be open and receiving, whether it's Reiki energy, whether you're receiving some sort of healing. Lots of breath workers incorporate sound healing at the end of the practice and the rest phase. That's something I did at one of the Upstate Healer collaboratives with Shanita Sanders back in, I think it was June or July. And yeah, and you, once that focused thinking part of the brain kind of takes a rest and you're in that relaxation phase, like to go into a past life regression and to be led on this journey of, sound and feeling and voice, you can really sink into that experience and take something really valuable away from it. So yeah, there's no rules. I think it's all just, you got to experiment. You got to try things. Some things might not work. That's okay. You tried it.
I think for me, when I did my first breathwork class with you, I was like, oh, I need Reiki. Like I moved all this energy and now I need to like get it out of here. I need to just pull it out. And that was like my natural reaction. And I was like, we have to do that because it was so good. So it really was amazing. And like I said, a lot of these questions, we've kind of hit on little portions of it. So we'll go to you, Beth, again, about how you incorporate a lot of these modalities. I know you guys do this a lot at Integrative, with sound and breath and yoga, and you guys kind of dabble in a lot of things. So I'll let you talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I integrate breath work, like I said, with my Reiki and gong sound therapy, and our yoga practice. So with physical movement, we've got 2 other businesses inside of the space at my studio. There's a massage therapist who also does Reiki and heart math and personal coaching, like life coaching and personal training and nutrition. So we've done events together with her, and then there's an acupuncturist there. So we've done some yoga classes that incorporate breath work with acupuncture. And then we brought in some other healers within the local area. Vanessa Bonet is one of them who does sound healing with us. Paula does drum making and drum ceremonies and Reiki. So we just work with a lot of different people, a lot of different healers in the area.
Yeah, I love that. We've made a lot of friends in your studio. So some of the people that you've mentioned, Paula is actually facilitating some drumming at our next meetup, and Cheryl facilitated at our last meetups. Yeah. No, we love everybody. You guys have it integrated. They're all amazing. Perrin, I know you do a lot of guided meditation. You also have your yoga practice as well. Can you tell us a little bit about different modalities you like to bring into your breathwork practice?
Sure. So I'm currently only teaching one community class over at Blockhaven, and my main teachings are one-to-one individual clients. I'll do workshops every now and then, and I had such high hopes for one workshop that I paired with a public speaking coach. Only one person signed up, so Greenville wasn't ready for public speaking and breathwork. But I think the thing is, you always are breathing, so there's always possibilities. And I loved how Matt said there's no rules. But I would say for my one-to-one, what I'm doing is I love talking to mental health professionals and also chiropractors. Those are my 2 probably favorite modalities that I enjoy collaborating with. So it's not necessarily in the workshop format, but that's how we treat clients more effectively, is giving them more tools. And I know that breath isn't going to completely absolve you from all your issues. So I really get excited when there's other health professionals that are at least interested. And since this is on the newer side, when it goes as far to Western medicine, so what I end up doing a lot is I'll give a referral source a session so that I can actually show them what I'm talking about. That is because I can't say here, try on this experience and tell me what you think. You physically have to experience what we're talking about to actually understand what it is. And I've found a lot of positive feedback by just getting people to try something that they haven't tried before. So as far as modalities wise, I'd say I'm a big collaborator. I love collaborating with other health providers. And then as far as the modalities specifically in my session, is they're always personalized breathing exercises. And then we find personalized meditations using mantras that essentially are echoing the messages that they are really drum beating. So I love the idea of what does your body say yes to and what does your body say no to? And I use that as far as coming up with mantras together. I want you to have a hell yes response or a hard yes, I'm leaning in, that is what I need. And then that's what we weave in through the meditations that are recorded that they can then practice over and over and over again. So it's a little bit of Western, a little bit of woo-woo, a little bit of yoga and fascia releasing and all sorts of things.
That's, I love that because, like I said, I'm a medical provider, so I love that mix of Western because we love the science. We love to know why, which is hard to incorporate with the woo-woo because those fields don't tend to like to mesh.
Well, I'm just like, we can all play nicely in the sandbox, and it's essentially, we're all stronger together. And then honestly, the metaphor that I use the most is, this is a closed system. Like, it's not like I can attach the head from the body, like they are all connected. And what I know to be true, everything from like the fascia to the lymph to our nervous system to our skeletal system, everything is connected to something. And so, for example, you take your thumb and you press underneath your chin and press up, and your tongue lifts, because the tongue is like 8 different muscles that are, try it, Matt. So thumb, right chin, find that squishy part and press up, and you should feel your tongue lifting up. Well, yeah, like, so you say your TMJ, or you're having TMJ dysfunction. Well, that also is your jaw, which is also attached to your tongue, which is also attached to, like, in a way, your vocal folds and the way that you speak, the way that you breathe or not breathing. If you're integrating shoulder, that's what I think is, oh, Vanna's talking to us, sorry. Well, I can remember when I was probably early on in this journey, I would get so frustrated. Like, I just need something for the tongue. And then they'd be giving me something for like the neck and the shoulders, but they're connected. They are all connected, and starting to understand that you can support the whole system by taking care of the body as a whole, not just like parsing out individual things. And this is Vanna White. This is my executive assistant.
Hi, Van. Welcome. Yeah, I love that. I heard something a while back of how your jaw is actually attached to the base of your spine, and how like it's so important to really unhinge your jaw and like stretch it around, and it will help relax the rest of your spine into your seat. And I always do that now because I'm like, oh, that really does help me like relax and like just kind of take that weight off,
So
that's really cool.
The last little bit, I'll talk about that. So the reason I always say tongue up to the palate, well, there's a lot of reasons, but let's just talk about it from an intraoral pressure standpoint. When your tongue is all the way up and your lips are sealed, you have complete pressure, negative pressure, to actually pull the air down into your lungs, which then allows your diaphragm to work better, which then allows your pelvic floor to work more effectively. And if we're really getting like into it, if we talk about how many like floors there are in the body, some people even say the like soles of your feet and like the palms of your hand is basically all these like pressure units and pressure containers all throughout the body. And they all have a purpose. They all have a role. And it doesn't matter what your religious belief is. You know that we were made with intention, and there is so much connectivity. I would say I have to like take it in bites and pieces when I'm learning, because I can easily get overwhelmed. I'm starting to learn about lymphatic, and I'm just like, I don't understand. I'm not there yet. I'm not ready, but I will be. And when I am, I can't wait to integrate it. But it's just taking little bits at a time to figure out how they're connected. And the more that I can learn about it in my own body, that's how it makes sense to me. Like I can read about it, I can talk about it, but it's until I can actually feel it in my own container, that's when it makes sense. I'm actually able to describe it to others.
Yeah. And I feel like so many of us as healers that work with clients, we got there from practicing that practice, and it changed our lives in some form, and that we want to share it with everybody. And that's why we are where we are. So that is amazing. So this next portion is kind of like an open panel. So I'm just going to ask a question, and if somebody wants to raise their hand, I'll have you answer. So how would you recommend that someone chooses their method of breath work? I know we've talked a little bit about, Perrin has talked about like the physical aspect of choosing that. If you were to tell someone, I think you should try this because, how would that be?
I'll go. I think if you have some sort of breathing dysfunction, then you need to see Perrin. Not me. Not that, anybody can do my breathwork technique. And you can probably get something out of it, even if you do have a breathing dysfunction. And I teach mouth breathing, like we do mouth breathing. It gets a bad rap nowadays, but you can do a mouth breathing technique for a short period of time. If you're doing it all day long, then you're going to run into some problems. So yeah, if dysfunctional breathing, you should see, a breathwork therapist but if you're looking to, if you're looking to maybe find yourself or discover something in yourself, or you want to, you think there's something you need to work on, I think use your, people just, if you're just using your intuition to find the technique that's going to work for you, just try different techniques. It took me a few tries to really find something that I really liked, that really blew me away. So I think just try it all, because it's just breathing, there's no breathwork police. You're not going to get in trouble. So
yeah. What do you feel like was a good resource when you were like researching different methods of breathwork? Was it like just websites or YouTube, or what was the easiest method for you?
I mean, YouTube has tons of different breathing. Like if you just type in breathing technique, you're going to get all these different things, and you can just sit in your own home and just try a few things out, see what resonates with you. I would say don't just try one, then try another, then try another. Try it for a period of time so you can kind of see what those results are. Whether it's, box breathing or 3-6-9 breathing, there's tons of different things. And then, go to classes, go to different classes, try different things, and you'll find something that resonates with you eventually. And also maybe not, breathwork may not be your thing, and that's okay too.
Does anybody else want to kind of throw in a little 2 cents on that, as far as what you think?
This may or may not be relevant, but I've been on a lot of bad dates, and I've finally realized life is just dating. You have to date to find the right provider, the right doctor, the right therapist, the right gym, the right friend. I mean, there's friend dates. I think it's all just relationship, and you find the person that gets you. You find the person that you feel really is wanting to help find what works best for your life. And you're going to have different seasons, and you're going to have different needs depending on what's going on in that realm. But I absolutely agree with Matt. Like, try them all. And I don't need to be for everyone. I don't want to be for everyone, because Matt has amazing skills, and I'm going to have to go invite myself and just tell Beth, tell me everything you know, show me what you do. I think it's really, really powerful when there's a network and there's other sources that you can try out, because when you get to make your own choice, when you're actively choosing your health journey, and that includes your health provider, that's when you start getting empowered and taking control over the direction of your life and your health. And yeah, short answer, go on lots of breathwork dates and go try them all out and see how it goes. And then when you find the right one, what did you say, Matt? You left and you went and proposed, and then you came back for training. Yeah, that's my 2 cents.
I love your stories when you talk about going on dates with mouth breathers, and how that's how it's not it.
It has completely ruined dating. I start analyzing people's faces just from their picture, and I look at have they been grinding their teeth? Where's their tongue when they smile? I'm like, oh, he's gonna wake me up in the middle of the night snoring. He's gonna get hypertension. He's gonna get Alzheimer's early. It's awful. That's my personal journey, trying to learn how to turn that off so I can play and have fun. Stay tuned. for how that's going.
You're bringing your work into it. I like it. So you kind of touched base on this, like, how do we like choose who we want to work with? But I think you all have kind of touched on that, like, a little bit, you know. For me, like choosing, it was just kind of like watching people on Instagram and see what they were talking about, and like kind of feeling out. I like people who do a lot of educational things, and for me, that's very important. I think when I'm picking any type of person who's joining my healing team. So tell us a little bit about that. Do you guys think there's a specific, like a best way to see if you kind of vibe with the practitioner or facilitator? Or...
Oh, I can go. I don't want to talk too much, but I would say I've gone back and forth between like, do I offer a free 15-minute consult? Do I not? But I finally ultimately it's like, yes, you need to talk to me. You need to like figure out, do you want to hear my voice? Do you like want to hear what I have to say? And there's going to be at least something, like some indicator, whether when you're meeting them or if you take a class or if you watch their videos, just get some kind of like information and just listen to what your body says. But I do free 15-minute phone consults just so we can talk it out and I can explain what I'm doing. And I do community classes and workshops, but I think your question was like, how do you decide ultimately who to go to? Is that right?
Yeah. Like what would you recommend to look for? Like if somebody was looking for a breathwork practitioner to work with?
Well, and then also I'd say like, do you want it individually? Do you want it in a group? You know, is this something you're looking for weekly? Are you looking for it at like from an experience standpoint? There's lots of questions to ask.
You keep leading into my next question. So benefits of like the individual work versus class work. Do you feel like, I mean, I feel like that would be very personalized per person. I know some people that don't like working in groups at all. It makes them uncomfortable, especially when there's some trauma work going on. How do you guys feel about those different scenarios, working with individuals versus classes?
I do both, and they can be very different settings. Some people are more comfortable with, you know, in a room full of people. Sometimes being one-on-one with a therapist can be triggering for some people, or create anxiety and then create more disordered breathing. So we don't want that. If you're more comfortable around other people, I would suggest maybe starting with a group class. If there's something really specific that you're dealing with, you might want to start with a one-on-one practice to really, you know, individualize your practice, and we can figure out what techniques might work best for you. And even with techniques, I might teach the same technique as Perrin, but everybody's going to teach things differently. You're going to resonate with people differently. So just try it out and see what works for you.
Anyone else want to add to that? I think that's a pretty good explanation.
We could do an Upstate Healers event. That's kind of like speed breathwork dating. You just go around the room trying different techniques.
Who do you like? Who do you vibe with?
And I was also going to say there's something really nice about being able to maybe go with a friend in a group setting, like a group class. I know like in the past when I've tried new things, I was like, oh, I don't have to like do this by myself. Mm-hmm. That was really comforting and I think and nice. As far as you get to like having issues within the body's individual, I would say is probably better, whether that's like trauma or TMJ issues. I mean, it's just, it's hard to give a blanket statement for individualized, localized pain, trauma, those type things. But I think community is huge for healing. So you can get in like to a groove where there's regulars in a class, and it almost becomes like another form of a healing modality in itself, of having community of others doing the same thing that you can then talk about and share and expand upon. So, I mean, I think it's just, what is your point of entry? Like, what are the blockades if you're really anxious about going to something by yourself? Can you find someone to go with you? If you have a specific thing, maybe seek out individualized care. And then even, I think it's almost like a sample. Like if you go to a class, you just get to experience a little bit of it without committing to like a one-on-one, here we are, oh, this is intense interrogation, if that feels like it for you. But
I love classes, but like you said, it is hard to like pinpoint things where, you know, I do energy work. If I work with someone one-on-one, it's much easier for me to kind of pinpoint where maybe a trauma is sitting or where I need to send healing, where as a group, I'm kind of just dispersing it all through the air, like, okay, just go where you need to go. I know, but I think in the group settings that I've been in with both Perrin and Matt, I know you guys do an excellent job in guiding that though. So I always appreciate that.
Just to piggyback on the group settings, sometimes, you know, when you're having an emotional experience, like sometimes, you know, that can be uncomfortable, but then when one person does it, they give everybody else permission to do it too. And then all of a sudden it's just like a little pocket of laughter or a little pocket of crying. And it can be a beautiful experience to kind of give everybody permission to do that. So sometimes it's kind of like safety in numbers. You know, if everybody's crying, then it's okay to cry. But if you're the only one in the room crying, then it might feel weird. and you might
I'm
want
still
more
gonna cry.
and you want more specialization and like a special touch. But yeah, I think everybody kind of finds what they need. I think everybody knows what they need at some level.
Awesome. Okay, so if you guys had a little tidbit you could give to everyone watching, how can they integrate breathwork into their daily life? Like, tell us a little something maybe you do to kind of help connect to your breath every day.
I guess I'm unmuted. I'll go first. I think it depends on what kind of breathing technique you want to do, or you know, for people that come to my classes, I tell them, if you want to do this breathing technique at home on your own, if you feel comfortable doing it, then do it, and do it a lot. You know, if you want to do it once a day, do it. If you don't have time to commit to the longer practice, then do the technique for 5 or 10 minutes, like in the beginning of the day, and that can set the tone for the rest of the day. You lie down and do breath work at the beginning of the day, you're going to feel good. And then you carry that good feeling with you, you know, for X amount of hours. And then you just keep doing it, and it kind of increases until all of a sudden you're just feeling good. And then maybe you only need to do it once a week or once a month, because you've kind of cleared out all that junk and you're operating on this higher level. But yeah, you want to find the practice that works for you, and then, you know, just do it a little bit every day.
Yes, I know Perrin does great. Her social media presence is amazing. If you guys aren't following her on Instagram, she is amazing. So all of you guys are. But like I said, Perrin gives me little daily reminders when I watch her stories. She's been doing like the 100 days, and I'm like, okay, let me do my breath. See, I'm watching. But I really love that, because it does like give me that little moment every day to go, okay, let me just sit here and take some breaths. Let me breathe for just a minute and bring some calmness to my body and my nervous system, and take that time for myself, whether it's 30 seconds, a minute, you know, it's still putting that intention to just stop and breathe. So I appreciate your reminders daily.
I was going to say my all-time favorite, the one that I teach every single client, or if I'm ever doing like an intro, and I also use myself, is I love science and spirit and breathing and being. So that's why I very much incorporate the breathing practice with the like the mantras and meditation. And my favorite one is where you do an inhale of I am here right now, and the exhale, I have all I need. So a couple of ways you can do that is, one, you can like put your palms together and tap each finger. I am here right now. I have all I need. And if you want to be more incognito, I mean, you can put it on your hand, literally you can put it like on your thigh. And if you do that 6 times, that literally is a 5-second inhale and a 5-second exhale, which gives you a 10-second breath. And if you do it 6 times, you have 6 breaths per minute. What I love the most about this is if you were thinking about what you're anxious about, your past traumas, or even like your to-do list, or if you're like, honestly, what happens to me the most is I'm like trying to remember, did I talk to someone on social media, or did I email them, or did I call them? Was it on my Gmail? Was it on my work? And I just like feel completely pulled in all these different directions, and I'm not present. I'm not even not here. I'm like somewhere else. And that's one time that I'll do it like, okay, I am here right now. And then if I start to come from a place of fearfulness or criticism, like I'm not doing something, like we're so cruel to ourselves, which is something I'm still working on personally, but just remembering like, I have all that I need. I have a roof, I have clothes, I have my dog, I can breathe. So those are the 2 like meditations that I tell myself, paired with the tactile, paired with the timing. And like I said, 5-second inhale, 5-second exhale, 6 times gives you a 6 breath per minute, which absolutely will change the physiological response in your body. And I've taught that to 4-year-olds who have told me that they've done, like the parent told me they did it in the doctor's office. And I literally did it in a coffee shop in North Carolina because I wanted to pull my hair out. And I was like, do what you teach. It helps. It helps me. It makes sense to me. But you can also say, I am safe right now. I am here right now. I am whole right now. I mean, there's a million different things you could plug it into, but it's been my tried and true that I use all the time.
Awesome. How about you, Beth? Anything you want to add in there? This is kind of our last question before we open up into the Q&A.
I was going to say, I would just bring like one hand down toward the belly and one hand toward the chest, and just close your eyes and just feel your breath and feel that you're breathing. And we're always breathing. So we always have an opportunity to work with the breath. So just being mindful and aware of the breath and noticing qualities of the breath, noticing how the body moves with the breath. Does it feel fast or slow, deep or shallow, jagged or smooth? Are there places where you can't feel the breath, or places where you feel it more than others? So just being really mindful of the breath and just bringing your awareness to it can change it.
Yes, I love the hand on the heart. There's so much energy in the heart space for me. And I think we can feel like that powerhouse we have in our chest between our lungs and our heart. It's our little motors, honestly. So I love that connection, that feeling, that tactile, putting the hand on the chest and on our solar plexus and really just connecting that way. So I am going to open this up to questions. I do ask that anybody that's doing the raise the hand to be acknowledged. I am new to moderating in the Zoom world, so hopefully I can figure it out. If not, just type it in the chat. And we'll open it up for some questions if anybody has them. Okay, so Melody has a question about use of chakras within your practice, how you could use those in a breathwork practice. I'm going to aim this at Beth because I feel like I know you use this. So I'm going to open this up to you.
Yes, I do work with the chakras. So kind of like just being aware of the breath, just bringing our awareness to those different areas in the body that are related to each of those energy centers. I feel like using the breath can help you deepen the connection and sense the energy and movement. And we can really incorporate the breath work to release things that might be blocking us or just open those channels up. I do specific practices with chakras sometimes in individual sessions or group sessions as well.
I'm not sure as far as Matt and Perrin, if you guys practice any of that. Do you guys have anything to add to that?
Just the main one that I recognize and I see the most, and I definitely pull in is one of my favorite books was Western Body, Eastern Mind, and I totally used it for myself. And I was like, check, 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 and I just saw, like basically a mind explosion when it was talking about the root. So I live a lot in my head versus my body. And I recognize that in myself from past like smoking and addiction and food. So I'm constantly in the past, and I'm wary of it now, but I'm constantly putting stuff in my mouth, whether it's drinking or eating. And then also those past things that I noticed. And it's because we're trying to find stability in our body. And mostly I'm not necessarily like analyzing the chakras, but we definitely have conversations about them. And it's more so just noticing the patterns and what the why behind it. So I would do all those things. Why? Because my root was jacked up. My root needed help. And it's just like starting to really even think about those things. And honestly, I probably need to come to you, Beth, because I'm still working on those past unlearning, like all that dissociation I did from my body. And it's like, how do we actually come be in our body? And just being aware of it and slowly integrating and just talking about it, bringing it into the language and conversation. That's kind of what I do as far as that goes.
I want to add my 2 cents. That's not really breathwork related, but chakra related. So you have these organs in this heart space. The heart space is your bridge between your upper and your lower chakras. So I think activating those organs in that space really helps bring that connection with, having that grounded feeling throughout the lower chakras. But like, how does your internal deal with your external? So if you look at the uppers and the lowers as this internal mindset versus this external factors that are coming in and how we deal with them, like being able to move that energy in the chest and use those organs to expand really helps that bridge to open and help that flow between the energy centers in the body. That's kind of how I look at it. And I think that's why breath work is so powerful, because you are learning to connect how I'm going to deal with all these factors that are coming at me that are affecting my lower chakras. That's just my 2 cents. So thank you. That was a great question, Matt. I don't know if you have anything to throw in there on that question at all.
I don't. If I work with someone individually in a private one-on-one, then I do. I am certified in Reiki as well, so I will kind of dabble in that. But I've found in my own experiences doing breath work and just knowing how other teachers facilitate that some teachers will do tapping during conscious connected breathing techniques, and that usually focuses on those energy centers. And sometimes I'll do that if I feel called to kind of work with someone in that way. then I might, I might put a little pressure on those energy centers. And I know that from my own breathing experience, I had my breathwork teacher dig his fingers really hard into my solar plexus, and I don't know what came out of me, but it was one of the most gut wrenching, just emotional releases that I've ever had. And there's all the feelings of self-worth, and shame, and I can't remember all the feelings associated with the solar plexus chakra, but when he dug in there, it was just a giant release. And I know that other people that I've breathed have sort of experienced that as well, in their own way, shape, or form. But yeah, you can kind of, when you breathe, you kind of activate your energy, you're moving things. So you can kind of I've seen people activate things and they don't even know that they're activating them. And it's just through moving energy through your body. So you can kind of remove those blockages. And sometimes you need a little help doing it.
Absolutely. I could get into like a 2-hour conversation on this, so I'm gonna keep moving. Does anyone else in the group have any questions for our panelists? Do you guys have any questions for each other? I know you guys each have different practices. Is there anything that's come up that you guys are like, I want to ask a little bit more about this thing maybe you touched on? Or
Beth, oh, sorry. I'll go. Beth, in regards to the chakra question, do you teach Kundalini? Or do you practice? Have you practiced that? That's something that I haven't practiced, but I know that I think it focuses on those kind of activating those energy centers through meditation and breath.
I have practiced Kundalini. I don't teach Kundalini. It's not something I'm certified in, but I absolutely love Kundalini. And hopefully one day can get certified in it. But it's an amazing practice. I wish I had somebody to recommend locally. There's probably somebody in the Upstate Healers group that, yeah. Do you know somebody you recommend?
I think Danielle Mercurio does some Kundalini practice. She does the cosmic yoga at Haven now and then. And I believe she does involve some Kundalini practice. And then also in Spartanburg at Yoga You and Me, Kristen Shook, I believe, does a Kundalini practice that I've had several friends who've been going to, and they love it. So I'm sure there's more, but those are the two I can think of.
Yeah, Marika Chancellor is one of the teachers I've worked with. She does yoga research in the recreational therapy department at Clemson.
Oh, cool.
I don't think she's teaching anywhere publicly, but I have done some private sessions with her in the past.
All right. Well, so I guess if there are no more questions for anybody, we'll just kind of wrap up. This will be recorded and posted so that you can come back to it if you need to. Any final thoughts or insights on anything for you guys that you would like to share, and maybe how people can get in touch with you? What's the best way to go about that if they are interested in working with you? Beth, go ahead. You're on screen, so we'll.
Yeah, so I'm in downtown Easley at Doodle Station, and you can find us online at www.iyt.yoga. We've got a class schedule there for group classes and workshops. And then we also do private appointments for sound healing and Reiki. We do aerial yoga as well as mat yoga. And there's a couple other practitioners there too. So acupuncture, massage, nutrition, life coaching. If you have any questions, just feel free to reach out. My email is info@iyt.yoga, or you can call or text me 864-444-5523.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Matt, any final thoughts? How we get a hold of you? What's the best way? Where you practice at?
You can find me at halfacreholistics.com. There's a class calendar there, and on that class calendar, you can find links to all the studios that I'm at in the Upstate. Lots of different events and collaborations going on, as well as events at our home studio, aka the living room, which looks like a studio. It's a beautiful little space that we got. So if you want to do a group class there or anywhere else, you can find that on our website. And then you can reach out to halfacreholistics@gmail.com if you're interested in doing a private session. And if you just want to try it out, come to a group class and see if it resonates. Yeah,
I know I just got your newsletter, and I felt like the offerings and events just went on and on and on and on because you're doing everything, and it's amazing.
Yeah, I'm excited about a new men's group breathwork circle that I'm starting. I'm going to do it once a month. So I'm looking forward to that as a new offering this month and keeping it going.
Yes. And I'm sure we'll be releasing a lot more information about that through Upstate Healers, because we are excited about the men's groups that are coming out and some of the movement going on here in Greenville with that. So we'll get into more of that later. All right, Perrin, where can we find you? What's the best spots?
I'm definitely most active on Instagram. It's at Breathe Well, Be Well, breath with the E, Breathe Well. And then my website's breathewellbewell.info. And if you're interested in scheduling a consult call or just getting ready for book a session, but there's a book session little button all throughout there that takes you to my schedule. I teach at Blockhaven on Wednesdays at 5:45. That's a gentle flow, but we always breathe and flow. And then I have a couple of workshops coming up. They're not published yet, but they're coming at some point.
Awesome. We love to see it. So thank you guys so much for all the information you've shared today. I've enjoyed talking with you all. And seeing some of you again. We appreciate everybody that joined us today. And like I said, this will be recorded. So if you know somebody that you think would just greatly benefit from this practice, share it with them, let them watch it. We'll be taking love donations for a while. So to give some energetic exchange to our panelists. And just to share, next month, we will be doing another panel, and this time it will be Understanding Reiki. So Tam will be my partner with Upstate Healers, will be mediating that, and there will be 3 panelists again. Myself will be on that panel, and Gina Gatlin with Quantum Wellness, and Anna Tingen-Lewis with Crystal and Clover. So really excited to join that panel and talk with those amazing healers. So that is April 6th, same time, same place. So we look forward to joining you guys then, and hopefully everybody will come back and share. This is open to the public. We're super excited to start delving into the education of our community here in the Upstate, and just like providing all this information for people so that they can start learning. I feel like Upstate Healers, what I love about it the most is it just provides this super safe space for people. Sometimes I see through social media when people are asking for recommendations of alternative practices and such, it's not met with the best response from others in the community. And we just want to be a safe place for people to land and ask for referrals and not be judged about that. So thank you all for joining us and for helping to educate the public about what this practice is.
Thank you so much, Angela. I say you and Tam both have done such a fantastic job. And this was a lot. This is a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. And I absolutely will be checking out the Understanding Reiki. And I just love everything that Upstate Healers has created and cultivated as well.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you all for joining us. I'll have a great night.
Yeah, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.